Hello everyone, welcome to News Today edition of 5th and 6th April. Myself Nilesh and I will be taking this session. In this session, we'll cover important development of the day. Before we start today's session, let's see the headlines. In this session, we'll cover 3 main news, 7 quick updates and 1 personality news. In main news, first main news is about India's major ports and their progress in financial year 2025-2026. The second main news is about rising risk of reverse migration in migrant workers. Third main news is about Meghalaya have signed the MOU with the Starlink India to boost satellite internet. In personality news, we will cover Babu Jagjivan Ram. Right. So without wasting any time, let's dive into first main news of the day. In first main news, we will cover India's major ports and their progress in financial year 2025-2026. This topic is very important for us because UPSC have repeatedly asked the question regarding the major and minor ports in the news, and that is why this becomes very important. It is from the GS paper 3, that is infrastructure and related to ports, right? So this is the background. Now we'll see the development. So what is the development? So the ports have been achieving the major success in India's growth story, and progress has been primarily driven by the various initiatives, right, such as sustained capacity expansion, modernization of port infrastructure, and improved turnaround efficiency. What is turnaround efficiency? Turnaround efficiency is like when ships come to any port, there is some time to undocking the ship, and then again fill the another material on that ship. So that time and the overall process and documentation requires some time, and if that time is larger, then there is inefficiency in the shipping sector. And in India, that turnaround time was around 7 days previously, which have been reduced to 24 to 48 hours now. So this is one of the important development, right? Now we'll see various key progresses made by India in this context, right? What is the first key progress? That is regarding the cargo handling. And major ports in India have handled the cargo around 915 million metric ton in financial year 2025-26, surpassing the previous target of around 904 million metric ton, right? So this is the growth of around 7%. That is the one aspect. Then secondly, there are top performers, and which ports are performing good? The firstly, Deen Dayal port. This is also known as Kandla port. Kandla port. And where this Kandla port is situated? It is in Gujarat. Please remember this. So this is situated in Gujarat, and it have handled the cargo of around 160 million metric ton in a year, followed by Paradip and then Jawaharlal Nehru Port Authority JNPA. So where this Paradip port is? So it is in Odisha. And where this JNPA? It is also known as JNPT. It is in Navi Mumbai, right? So this is the key progress we have achieved. Now we will see the major ports in India. This is very important because UPSC have asked the question regarding it, and we'll see couple of questions related to it. So before we go to those questions, let's see which are those 12 major ports. So in India there are 14 major ports actually, but there are 12 major ports which are operational, right? and there are around 200 non-major or minor ports. So how these major and minor ports are decided is it is linked to cargo handling. So answer is no, it is not linked to cargo handling. So there is Indian Ports Act of 1908 which have been amended now in 2025, but according to this act there were major ports and there are minor ports, and how they are decided. So the major ports are managed and operated by the central government, right, and minor ports are managed, operated and owned by the state governments, right. So this is the difference. Major ports and minor ports are not decided based on the volume they handle, right. This is very important, question can be asked, so you should be prepared for it. This is the one factor. Now we'll see which are the two major ports which are non-operational. The first is Vadhavan port, which is in Maharashtra, and then secondly Galathia Bay port, that is in Great Nicobar, Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So this port is under construction and it is expected that by 2032 it will be one of the important ports in the world in the top 10, right. So this is one of the very important development, you should remember that. Then we will see other major ports. So we have already seen Deen Dayal port, that is Kandla port, then there is Mumbai port, and then there is JNPT, as we already saw, Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust. Then there is Marmgoa port, which is in here. Then there is New Mangalore port. Then there is Kochi port in Kerala. Then this is Vivo Chidambaram port. Then there is Chennai port. Then this is Kamarajar port, right. It is very close to the Chennai. Then this is Visakhapatnam port, which is in Andhra Pradesh. Then this is Paradip port, as we already discussed it, and then this is the Kolkata port. So these are the 12 major ports which are in operation. Please remember that, and please remember their states also. A question can be directly asked. So these are the major ports, and we have already seen how they are administered. So major ports are under the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways, while the non-major ports are under the state maritime boards or the state governments. So this is about the major ports, their functioning and how they are recognized, right. Now we will see the various initiative taken by the government for the port development. Before that, we should also remember that why these ports are very important for us. So firstly, these ports are very important for international trade. So around 95% of the international trade by the volume is through the ports, and around 70% of the international trade by the value is from the ports. That is the one aspect. Then secondly, these ports create the jobs for the population. That is the second aspect. Then it is important for the defense. You all remember that 2008 attack on Mumbai was through the sea, and that is why the ports can be very important infrastructure for managing the naval or the maritime borders, right. That is also one of the aspect. Then these can also serve as the transshipment zones. As India's position is very strategic, it is between the important trade lines, and the ports of India can be important transshipment zones, right. That is also one of the key aspect. So these ports are very important for these various things. Then also the waterways are cheaper than any other medium such as air cargo or the road or by the train. That is why the ports become very important for the export competitiveness also. So these are the some of the important factors for the importance of the ports for the India. Right now we'll see various initiatives taken by the Indian government. The first, as we already discussed, legislative measures. The Major Ports Authorities Act 2021 provides the greater autonomy and the promotes PPP participation, while the Indian Ports Act 2025 we already discussed, which replaced the Indian Ports Act of 1908, aims to modernize the regulation. That is the one part. Then private participation with the 100% FDI under the automatic route for the development of the ports and their related infrastructure have been allowed by the government. That is the second aspect. Then there is Sagarmala program. All of you know that it is the flagship initiative launched in 2015 for the port modernization, connectivity enhancement, new port developments, and the coastal community development. So Sagarmala program have been the key measure for the port development in India. Then Maritime India Vision 2030. This outlines the 150 initiatives for propelling the India's global maritime leadership. It includes the spheres such as port infrastructure, development, enhancing logistic efficiency, etc. And then there are some other initiatives such as National Logistic Portal, Marine, that is known as Sagar Setu, then real-time performance monitoring dashboard and Sagar Manthan, etc. So this is about the first main news related to ports and their importance for India and various initiatives taken. Now we'll see the question asked regarding it. Firstly, we'll see this question: what is the importance of developing the Chabahar port by the India? And it is very important because Chabahar port is where? It is in Iran. It is in Iran, and Iran is in news, and that is why the question can be asked. Chabahar is the port developed by India in Iran, and it is also operated by India, but this is in danger because of the ongoing conflict in the West Asia, right? So what is the importance? India's trade with the African countries will enormously increase. Then India's relations with the oil producing Arab countries will be strengthened. India will not depend on the Pakistan for access to Afghanistan and Central Asia, and Pakistan will facilitate and protect the installation of gas pipeline between India and Iraq. The correct answer is C, that India will not dependent on the Pakistan for accessing the Afghanistan and Central Asia. This is the one question. Then see this question. It is in 2023. This question was asked. Kamra Rajar port, and it is known for the first major port in India registered as the company. Is it correct? So it is correct statement. Then see this Mundra port. So Mundra port is the largest privately owned port in India. Is it correct? Correct. It is owned by the Adani Enterprises. And then there is Visakhapatnam port, largest container port in India. So it is not correct. So largest container port in India is actually JNPT in Navi Mumbai. So third statement is third pair is not correct, and that is why answer is only two pairs B. So B is the answer. Here C is the answer. This is all about the first main news. Now we'll see the second main news of the day. Second main news of the day is regarding the rising risk of reverse migration in the migrant workers, and this becomes very important for paper one, that is population and the associated issues. And why there is rising risk of reverse migration? Firstly, what is reverse migration? So reverse migration is migrant workers going back to their home from their working places. And why it is happening? It is happening because of the rising fuel prices, because of the conflict in the West Asia. This is the development, right? Now we'll see the related aspect of the news. As we have already seen the development, now we'll see the statistics related to migrant laborers in India. What is the statistic? How many total number of interstate migrant workers are there? So there are 4.14 crore migrant workers, and this figure might be increased because this data is from the census 2011, right? So this is the official data, but it is pretty old. Then there is migration rate, which is around 28.9%, with the 26.5% from the rural areas to urban areas, and it is from the 2020-21 migration report. When you state such data, please try to give the source of that data, so it actually authenticate your data, right? So this is the second thing. Then we'll see now what is the migration. So there is two type of migration: internal migration, and then there is international migration, right? There is difference between the migration and the refugees, but I will not go into that nitty-gritties. And why there is migration happening? So there are two things which is leading to the migration. Firstly, pull factor and push factor. What are the push factors? Such as the economic distress and joblessness in rural areas. Then social discrimination, that is the second aspect. Then there is lack of facilities of health and education, right? So these are the some of the aspect which are actually pushing the people from the rural areas to the urban areas. And there are pull factors also, such as job opportunities, right? There are job opportunities in the urban areas. Then there is infrastructure. Then there is social sector facilities such as health, education, right? All those things. Then there is social mobility, in the cities, and also there is relatively less social discrimination. So these are the some of the pull factors which are actually pulling the people from the rural areas to urban areas. So this is about it. I hope it is clear to you. Now we will see the various problems faced by the migrant laborers in India. Regarding the migrant laborers, many of the laborers from the North India or the other pockets are actually traveling to the various areas where there are various jobs available. Particularly in Punjab, Haryana, there are agriculture jobs are available. In the Western India, such as Gujarat, Maharashtra, there are various jobs related to industries are available, and also same is the case in the South India, right? So these are the some of the factors for the migrant laborers to migrate from their original places to the other states, right? Now what are the various problems? First problem is regarding the informalization. Around 90% of the workers are in the informal sector, leading to the low wages, irregular payment, etc. And during crisis like COVID-19, they are most vulnerable. That is the one aspect. Then there is lack of affordable housing, and migrants as the largest group of requiring the housing in the cities as per the Ministry of Housing and the Urban Affairs, right? So government is actually acknowledging that these are the social strata which require the housing the most. Then there is risk of exclusion from the welfare. Many times what happens, they do not have required documents to get the social welfares in the other state, because they are native in some other state, their documents are from some other state, and that is why they do not get the fair share of the social security schemes of that state where they are residing presently, because of the lack of documents, right? That is the one of the aspect. For example, public distribution system exclude individuals without the Aadhaar linkages, and their Aadhaar will be having the addresses of their home, which will be in other state. Then there are other factors such as other problems such as limited access to the health and education, discrimination based on the son of soil doctrine, which is present in the Maharashtra or Karnataka, these regions, and even the discrimination on the basis of race, on the basis of language, on the basis of religion, all those things. Then lack of political representation is also one of the factor. So these are the some of the problems faced by the migrant workers, right? I hope it is clear to you. Now we'll see the way forward. Way forward is pretty simple. There is not very technical in it. Firstly, immediate food supply for the migrant workers, such as community kitchens, or there can be also a temporary kitchen or the canteens in the MSMEs. That is the one aspect. Then there is direct benefit transfer based on the subsidy delivery, enables the better targeting to the protect vulnerable groups, right? That is the second aspect, like PM Kisan. Then there is establishing a inter-ministerial coordination system. And what will it do? So with the industry participation for the real-time monitoring and the faster policy response, right? Then there can be a credit and interest relief to ease the financial distress on the enterprises employing the migrant laborers, particularly MSMEs, so that they will not burden their employees. These are the some of the way forwards. Now we'll see various initiatives taken by the government in this regard, right? So the first initiative is the e-Shram portal. You might have heard this portal, and what is the purpose of this portal? So this portal was created in 2021 to create national database of the unorganized workers. And because there will be a database, there can be a policy clarity on the unorganized workers. Then there is one nation, one ration card scheme, which is very important, as we already discussed what is the problem with the PDS system in India. To ensure the food security for all, including the internal migrants, even if that person is not from that particular state where he is actually claiming the PDS, right? Then there is affordable rental housing complexes for the urban migrants or the poor, a sub scheme of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban, providing the affordable rental housing to the urban migrants, right? Then there is another welfare schemes such as PM Street Vendors Atmanirbhar Nidhi, then Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Mandhan Yojana, then Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, etc. So these are the some of the initiatives taken by the government for the welfare of the various welfare of the various migrant workers. This is about it. So now we will see the various question asked by the UPSC related to migrant workers. The first question is from the 2023, and it is saying that consider the following statement. Recently, all the countries of the United Nations have adopted the first ever compact for the international migration, the global compact for safe, orderly and regular migration. Please see all the countries. Is it possible all the countries of the United Nations signing the or adopting the any compact? There is very less possibility of having the consensus on any issue, right? So the first statement is wrong. Then the objective and the commitment stated in the GCM are binding on the UN member countries. There are very few UN commitments which are binding, right? So second statement is also prima facie wrong. Then GCM addresses the internal migration or the uh, internally displaced people also in the objective and the commitment. What it says in its name: global compact for safe, orderly and regular migration. So it is saying that the compact for international migration, so it is for the international migration. So how it will be having the internally displaced people? So third statement will be also wrong, and the answer is D, that is none of the above, right? This is about it. Sometime it is very easy, and if you apply general awareness, you can get the answer, right? Then see this question: discuss the changes in the trends of the labor migration within and outside India in the last 4 decades. As we have already discussed various labor migration trends, we have to discuss those trends. And in internal migration, you can discuss India's migration to the West Asian countries, then migration in the Europe and USA, migration in the East Asian countries and Australia, right? So you can write such point. Then there is in Central Asia and Russia, particularly for the education, medical education and all those purposes. So you can write the external migration. In internal migration case, we have already discussed those points in the discussion, right? So I hope it is clear to you. Now we'll see the next main news of the day. So next main news is regarding the satellite internet. And what is the development? So Meghalaya government have signed the MOU with the Starlink India to boost the satellite internet connection in the state. And it becomes very important for the GS paper 3, that is science and technology applications and effects in everyday life of the science and technology. So without wasting any time, let's dive into the news. As we have already discussed that Meghalaya have the signed the MOU, but it is not the first state. So it have become the third Indian state after the Maharashtra and then Gujarat to partner with the Starlink formally. And Starlink was launched in 2019 by the SpaceX and plans to have the 42,000 satellites in the low Earth orbit. Please remember this, in the low Earth orbit, and it is the initiative by the Elon Musk, right? So this is about it. Now we'll see what is the satellite internet and how it works in the next slide. So this is the diagram. We will see this satellite internet system, but firstly let us see what is satellite internet is. So satellite internet refers to the internet service provided through the satellite placed in the geostationary orbits or non-geostationary orbits, GSO or the NGSO. So generally in our house there is broadband connection. So there is connection through the wires or the optical cables, and through those cables we actually get the internet connection. But in the case of satellite internet, so it is wireless connection and it is through the satellites, right? So this is the one of the aspect. Then there is low Earth orbit and the medium Earth orbits, which are included in the non-geostationary orbits. What is the geostationary and non-geostationary orbit? We have already discussed it in the previous news today, but we will again see it. In geostationary orbit, it is around 36,000 kilometers away from the earth, and it is generally on the equator, right? So this is the one aspect. And low earth orbit and medium earth orbit, low earth orbit is around 300 to 500 kilometers, and medium earth orbit can be around 1000 kilometers. This range can be varying, but this is generally a fix. So please remember this thing. And unlike the land-based internet services such as fiber cable, as we already discussed, it does not rely on the wires, improving the accessibility, deployment speed, and the long distance transmission, right? So it is very helpful where there is rough terrain and infrastructure building is very difficult. Also it saves the time and energy where the terrain is very difficult, because it is wireless connection, right? So this is the one aspect. How it works? So this is your satellite phone or the any transmitting device. So they will send the signal to the satellite, and this satellite will send the signal back to gateway. It can have the gateway to some other distance also, and that is why these various satellites will be used. These satellites will transfer data to this satellite, and it will again transfer this data to gateway. And what is the gateway? So gateway is the command center, in short. And what it does, so it will receive that data, and then it will transmit that data to the network control center, and then the network control center will transmit that data to the cellular phones, landline phones, or the other devices which generally have the access to the satellite internet. So this is the working principle of the satellite internet. You can draw such rough diagram in your examination if question is asked regarding the satellite internet service, right? I hope it is clear to you. Now we will see the infrastructure. We have already seen it in the diagram, but there is space segment which includes the network of several communication satellites. Then on the ground segment, these include the satellite measurement and the control networks, gateway stations, etc. And then the user segment, which includes the communication terminals used by the users. This is about the infrastructure, right? Now we'll see the advantages over the existing land-based internet. What is the advantage? As it is also discussed by us, but we'll see again. Firstly, global reach. So it connects the remote and unserved regions lacking fiber and cellular infrastructure, particularly in the tough terrain such as Himalayan regions or in the tribal areas, in the jungles. This is very helpful. Also it is helpful in the on the various purposes such as ships and also aircrafts, right? Then there is rapid deployment. So it requires really a minuscule devices and infrastructure, so they can be deployed rapidly, requires only power and clear sky, avoiding the costly and time consuming civil works. Please remember, so if there is not clear sky, the speed can be impacted. That is the one aspect. Then there is disaster resilience. Because of the disaster, there can be damage to the infrastructure such as wire or the cable connections, but it is not in the case of the satellite internet, and restores communication quickly and acts as a backup when territorial networks are failed, right? So this is the advantage over the other internet services, right? Now we'll see the regulatory landscape for the satellite internet services in India. So firstly, What is the regulatory landscape? Firstly, there is Department of Telecommunication grants the licenses and regulates the under unified license regime. So Department of Telecommunication grants the license under the unified license regime. Then there is Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, which recommends spectrum assignment terms for the satellite services. And then there is Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center, which promotes, authorizes and supervises the private space activities. Right. So this is all about the satellite internet. Now we'll see the related question asked in the UPSC. This question was asked in the UPSC, and please remember that the private initiatives can be asked in the UPSC. The question is regarding the project Loon, sometimes seen in the news. It is related to, and the answer was wireless communication technology. So basically in this technology, what they used to do, they used to send the balloons in the air, and those balloons used to act as the mini satellite kind of thing, and they used to cover some area where the wireless communication can be reached. This was the project Loon, right? So this is about the question. Now see this question: has digital literacy, particularly in the rural areas, coupled with the lack of information and communication technology ITC accessibility, hinder the socio-economic development? Examine with the justification. So obviously there is actually impacting the socio-economic accessibility of the internet, and because of there is lack of accessibility of internet, the people in the rural areas will have the lesser opportunities in the jobs, also in the services. The service delivery will be delayed. Then there is lack of transparency and accountability in the governance. All those things can be affected. Even the education can be affected of the students. Also the healthcare facilities such as telemedicine. So in those aspects, there is obviously impact on the socio-economical development of the country. You have to write this. Then you have to also write the various initiatives taken by the government to promote the access to the rural areas, and what can be the another steps taken. You have to write in the way forward in the conclusion. So this is all about the third main news. Now we'll see the personality in news. Today's personality in news is Babu Jagjivan Ram, who was very prominent leader of Congress and also Deputy Prime Minister. What is the development? So Prime Minister have paid tributes to the former Deputy Prime Minister of India, that is Babu Jagjivan Ram, on his birth anniversary. Let us see about the Babu Jagjivan Ram and his contribution. So he was born in the Shahabad district, which is nowadays Bhojpur in the Bihar, and he was popularly known as the Babuji, right? And he was the national leader, freedom fighter, and the crusader of the social justice, and the champion of depressed classes, and outstanding parliamentarian also. This is the one of the aspect. Then let's see his education. So he learn in the Banaras Hindu University and Calcutta University. And what are the key contribution of Babu Jagjivan Ram? So he founded the Akhil Bharatiya Ravidas Mahasabha in Calcutta. Then Khetihar Mazdoor Sabha for the agricultural labor, and All India Depressed Classes League. Please remember these names. Question can be asked because UPSC have asked the question related to organization previously by the Ambedkar, Jyotiba Phule and other social reformers. So question can be asked about these organization also. Then he participated in the civil disobedience movement, Satyagraha and Quit India movement also. He was the ardent follower of the Gandhiji, and he appeared before the Himond Commission at the Ranchi and demanded for the first time the voting rights for the Dalits. Please remember that the Hammond Commission at the Ranchi and demanded for the first time the voting rights for the Dalits. So this is all about the personality in news, that is Babu Jagjivan Ram. Now we'll see the quick updates of the day. The first quick update of the day is per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, also known as PFAS. And what is the development? So European Union have tightened the water pollution norms to target the pollutants like PFAS, forever chemicals. And why they are called as a forever chemicals? Because they do not disintegrate readily and remain in the environment for the longer time. This is the one of the aspect. Let us see about the PFAS. So these are the large group of synthetic chemicals characterized by the partially or the fully fluorinated carbon chains of the weighing length. And the key subgroups are the PFHSX, XS, then PFOA and PFOS, and are listed as industrial POPs, persistent organic pollutants under the Stockholm Convention. Why Stockholm Convention is there? To control the POPs, persistent organic pollutant, which also means the forever chemicals, because they do not disintegrate readily. PFAS are not easily degraded in the environment, as we already discussed. Same is the case for the POPs. And what are the sources? Present in the packaging, household items, etc. And persistent exposure to PFAS can lead to the bioaccumulation in the animal bodies. What is the bioaccumulation? Because these chemicals are actually accumulated in your body and they can have the toxic impact on the animals, right? And what are the health risks linked to the cancer, hormonal disruption, and immune suppression, etc. This is about the first quick update. Now we'll see the second quick updates of the day. I hope it is clear to you. In second quick update, we will cover Project Maven. And what is the development? So Project Maven, an AI program, is now central to US strikes against Iran. And what is the Project Maven? So it is the AI program of the USA. Please remember this. And what is its objective? To automate the detection of the object and patterns in the vast volumes of drone imagery, reducing the manual analysis burden. So it is actually analyzing the various large volume of drones imagery, and it is use machine learning and computer vision to identify targets, movement, and the activities in the real time. This is the second quick update of the day. Now we'll see the third quick update of the day. And third quick update of the day is OPEC Plus. Right? What is the development? OPEC Plus have raised the production quotas amid the US-Iran-Israel conflict. So OPEC Plus is the organization of the major oil producing countries in the world, right? So organization of the petroleum exporting countries, OPEC and OPEC Plus. Let us see about the OPEC. So OPEC was instituted in 1960 and it had 5 countries, namely Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia and Venezuela, established OPEC as a permanent intergovernmental organization. And what was the purpose? To coordinate and unify the petroleum policies of its countries and ensure that stabilization of oil markets. So there was no stabilization of market. Countries according to their own needs used to produce the oil, and because of that the oil prices were actually falling down or used to be very high. And to control that, the OPEC bring the some policy, and by that policy the countries will have the some quota, and according to that quota they will produce or extract the oil per day. So that quota have been increased. Other members of the OPEC include the Argentina, Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Libya, Nigeria, and UAE. So these are the countries which joined later. In 2016, OPEC joined with the 10 other producer and it became the OPEC plus. And other than OPEC countries, it has the Russia, Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Brunei, Kazakhstan, Mexico, Malaysia, Oman, South Sudan, and Sudan, right? So these are the 10 other countries, and OPEC plus represent approximately 60% of the world supply. Which are the other countries which are not part of it, such as USA, right? So this is about the OPEC plus. Now we'll see the next quick update of the day. And next quick update of the day is about the Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat. And what is the development? Yuva Sangam under the Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat promoted youth exchange and the cultural integration across region. And Yuga Sangam is built on 5 thematic pillars, and that is Paryatam, that is tourism and heritage. Then there is Parampara, that is culture and tradition. Then Pragati, that is development and governance. Then Paraspar Sampark, that is people to people connect. And then Pradyogiki, that is technology and innovation. Remember this, there are 5 thematic pillars or 5 P's, right? Then we'll see about the Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat initiative. It was launched in 2015 on the Rashtriya Ekta Divas to promote national unity by strengthening the cultural and linguistic ties among the states and UTs. Then what is the objective? To enhance the mutual understanding and bonding between the different regions through the shared cultural experiences, particularly north states and southern states. Then there is mechanism which is states and UTs are paired for the strengthened engagement in the language, culture, tourism, cuisine, then sports and best practices. And what is the approach? Follows the whole of the government approach involving the multiple ministries, institution and communities also, right? So it is a community participation program, that is Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat. I hope it is clear to you. Now we'll see the next quick update. Next quick update is regarding the Mission Mitra. And what is the development? So ISRO have launched Mission Mitra to test Gaganyaan crew for mental, physical and the crew operability strengths, right? Now we'll see about the Mission Mitra, which is mapping of interoperable traits and response assessment, right? So it is a behavioral study by the ISRO for the human space flight missions conducted in the partnership with the Indian Air Force, Institute of Aerospace Medicine, AIAM. This is the one of the aspect. What is the objective of the Mission Mitra? So to assess the physiological, psychological and operational performance of the Gaganyaan crew under the stress. Then it was conducted at Leh, Ladakh, simulating the extreme conditions such as hypoxia, low temperature and the isolation. So this is about the Mission Mitra. It can be asked in the UPSC like what is the purpose of Mission Mitra, or which is the ministry which is conducting the Mission Mitra operations, right? Then we will see about the stagflation. What is the stagflation? So the energy supply and the prices shock from the ongoing Iran war can lead to the stagflation, and it is an economic condition characterized by the slowing economic growth, recession or high unemployment and the rising prices, inflation significant simultaneously, right? So there is recession and also rising prices and there is unemployment, that is called as stagflation. So stag means stagnant growth plus inflation and plus unemployment, right? And yeah, it is very challenging for the central banks to control through the monetary policy. and it is not possible sometimes to control it by the monetary policy. Then we can see that if central banks raise the interest rate to combat the high inflation, stagflation could risk further increasing the unemployment, right? So this is one of the aspect. Then we'll see the other types of inflation, that is the skew inflation. What is the skew inflation? Uneven inflation across sectors, with some goods and services rising much faster than the other. So skew inflation, only some sectors or the some goods have the higher inflation than the other economy, that is the skew inflation. So inflation is skewed to some items or the some sector. Then there is hyperinflation. What is the hyperinflation? Extremely high and accelerating inflation, often exceeding the 50% per month, that is called as hyperinflation. Then there is creeping inflation. What is the creeping inflation? Occurs when prices rise slowly over the time. And there is galloping inflation, which happens when inflation accelerates rapidly with prices increasing 20% or more in a year, that is galloping inflation. This is all about the stagflation and related terminologies. Question can be asked related to it. Now we'll see about the next quick update. Next quick update is related to no cloning theorem. And what is the development? So researchers have now reported a way around to make the perfect copy of the quantum state, right? And let us see about the no cloning theorem. So it is the fundamental principle in the quantum mechanics, stating that it is impossible to create an exact copy of an arbitrary unknown quantum state. This is the one of the aspect. It prevents quantum computers from making exact copies of quantum information, unlike classical computers which can duplicate data freely within the storage limit. So in the quantum state, it is very difficult or not possible. The research could pave the way for the technologies like quantum cloud storage, where data can be recovered even if servers fail. So this is the no cloning. So no cloning theorem, right? I hope it is clear to you. This is all about today's news today. I hope it is clear to you. Please visit our digital current affair portal, where you can solve various quizzes and also solve the questions which will appear on the screen for your practice. This is all for the day. Happy learning. Have a good day.